Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Alchemical Life podcast. This is your host, Abigail Crow speaking. I am a strength coach. I am an endurance athlete. I do a lot of strength coaching for endurance athletes. I've been doing it for quite some time. I really enjoy it. Now that you know about me, we're going to get into what you're really here for, which is programming considerations for endurance athletes. All the time I get, Abigail, I want to strength train. I know it's important. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what exercises are good for me. I don't know how many times per week, how many exercises, how many sets, how many reps, how do I rest? How do I have time for it all? It's so much. It's so much. And it is a lot. And that's why I have a job because it is a lot to think about and it is a lot to consider. And I'm still learning, so this is going to be an ongoing presentation truly for both me and the athletes that I work with. But today I wanted to share this with you because I will have presented this to Gulfwinds, my local track community that I love so much. I'll have presented this to Gulfwinds a week and a day ago. Whatever. I'm going to try something crazy and I'm going to try to share my screen. I don't know how this is going to work. Wow. Look at me go. Okay, I'm going to be looking down at my screen. I've started screen sharing. I don't even know if you can see my face anymore. No clue. But this is what I'm going to present today. So this is what you guys get. This is the episode. This is the podcast. Stay tuned. I promise it's helpful. If you are listening to this, I really would consider you switching off and going onto YouTube and watching this because there are so many visuals that I used AI to help me create. And so I want you to appreciate them. No, seriously though, there are some visuals that I would like for you guys to look at. It will help you. That being said, strength programming considerations for endurance athletes, because you guys train like freaking animals. Obviously, we need to be able to find some balance to this chaos. So let's get into it. All right. We're going to first talk about volume considerations. What is training volume? Overall training volume is essentially the amount of sets, the amount of reps, exercises that you are accumulating throughout your training week. Now you can phase it out via a training day, a training week, a training month, a training block, mesocycle, that kind of thing. But we're going based off of the training week, with running volume being your main focus and the main area of accumulated volume throughout your training week. We have to be really careful about the amount of exercises, the amount of sets, the amount of reps we add into the training week. Strength volume needs to be considered strategically. What I normally recommend for most athletes, including myself, who has a background in strength training, is anywhere from 4 to 6 exercises and anywhere in the 5 to 12 rep range. Why is that? It's because in order to eke out the most amount of quality from each exercise, we don't want to get diluted trying to get a bunch of exercises in. You'd be surprised how many things you can tick off and how many things you can accomplish with just choosing the right 4 to 6 exercises. Now, today, I do not have time to go into exactly what exercises are going to give you the most benefit. I might do another episode on that. I do have some things on my Instagram, and I'm sure I have in previous podcast episodes, some great bang for buck exercises that you can be doing to help you with strength training for running. But today I just don't have a lot of time. So 4 to 6 exercises, you choose the right ones, you choose the ones for you that most benefit you. You will get everything that you need out of those 4 to 6 exercises if they're done with the quality that you need. 5 to 12 rep range. Why choose the 5 to 12 rep range? Is because you want to be in the strength end of things. You don't necessarily need to be on the very, very far end of the strength curve where you're doing 1 to 3 repetitions. That can be beneficial. I've seen endurance athletes do it and it works for them, especially if they're in a more hybrid athlete training block. So they're training for something like a high rocks. However, I found that for most endurance athletes, the 5 to 12 rep range is the best. What that does is 2 things. One, it helps you still get stronger, right? This is a rep range where you can load up heavy enough that you're actually improving strength. This is also a rep range where you have the time to improve skill. So you have the time during the set to actually make sure your reps are good and get comfortable in the movement that you're going into, moving into the positions you're supposed to go into so that you can practice the skill of lifting and then you can get strong at the lift. That's why the 5 to 12 rep range to me is one of the best for endurance athletes. If the exercise number is too high, right, then energy is going to be conserved to distribute to all of the exercises required. And that's where the word diluted came from my earlier statement. The exercise number, the higher it goes, often the more diluted the workout becomes because you naturally are going to conserve energy to make sure that you have enough energy for the exercise that you're doing. the other exercise you got left. Then also, if the rep scheme is too high, overall loadability is just going to go down because the more reps, the less weight you're able to do. And because of that, it kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do with most of my endurance athletes, which is get them strong. You want to get stronger. And so doing something with a really low weight, really high rep, it's not going to give you the benefits you necessarily want. People think that, oh, because it closely mimics that of running, right? High rep, high volume, it's going to help with running. It actually interferes with running worse. It doesn't help with running. So lower reps, less exercises. That's the volume I recommend. The next thing that we're going to talk about is frequency, training frequency. Running takes up a lot of time in your training week. If you are a runner, you know this. Running doesn't just take up a bunch of time. You have to do it several times during the training week. So you're running probably 5 to some people 7 days per week, varying intensity. As a result, frequency of strength training needs to really be sweet spotted at about 2 to 3 times per week. If endurance is your main focus and you're not hybrid training. If you're a hybrid athlete, this is going to be a little bit of a different conversation. This is not necessarily the PowerPoint for you. But if endurance is your big focus, running is your focus, then 2 to 3 times per week is more than enough to get some strength benefits that will help carry over positively to performance and ideally mitigate injury risk. Now, the time of your race, the history that you have as a runner is going to determine what your training frequency is. So if you look at the chart here, more than 8 weeks out from an important race and you do have strength training experience, then you could lift about 3 times per week. If you are not more than 8 weeks out from an A series race, a very important race, and you do have strength training experience, then 2 times a week is recommended for somebody doing a half or greater, and 3 times a week if it's less than half distance. You could still get away with doing 3 times a week if you are less than 8 weeks out, but you do have strength training experience. If you are more than 8 weeks out from your important race and you do not have strength training experience, then it'd be about 2 times a week if you're doing a half marathon or greater, and then 3 times a week if you're doing less than half distance. Because you don't have strength training experience, the increased volume from strength training is going to be a lot. And also you can get positive benefits from doing a little. So let's not do more than you need. If you're not more than 8 weeks out from your A series race, and you're also not somebody experienced with strength training, then 2 times a week is really all you need. I don't personally see it being beneficial for athletes doing more than 2 times a week with minimal experience and very close to a race. You're just asking to be sore, potentially under recovered. Oftentimes I'm really managing overall intensity as well. And then I'm usually complaining at them for not having come to me sooner to start training with me. So that is the overall frequency recommendations. Intensity, training intensity. How hard do we go? What do we do? I wanted you guys to look at this graph right here. This mimics the weeks before race, how we want volume and intensity to peak and curve. But really what I want you guys to look at this graph as is to see that as volume goes down, intensity can increase, right? Volume and intensity have an inverse relationship. So the higher volume is, the lower intensity must be. The higher intensity is, the lower volume must be. When you're training to improve strength, intensity needs to be high enough so that you're actually creating a stimulus to generate strength without inducing too much muscle hypertrophy or muscle size. As we see with runners, most people actually who are lifting are like, heck yeah, I want muscle size. I definitely want to get bigger. I want to get freaking strong, jacked. I want to get the toned, lean look, all these things. As a runner, we don't necessarily want to get much more muscle size. We like the toned, lean look. You don't need to be like a feather running around, but you want to stay relatively light while improving strength so that you can maximize performance in your races. That being said, you need to be able to lift at a certain intensity. And that means I want to lift pretty dang hard, and I'm going to lift at a low enough training volume so that I am not going to put on a bunch of muscle size. The higher the training volume plus the higher the effort, the more muscle hypertrophy you're likely to induce, especially if you're also eating a lot and sleeping and recovering well. Close to a race, as we see now in this graph, volume is going to gradually drop off. You guys as runners know this. Overall training volume is going to drop off, and you're also going to want to do that in your strength training, right? I do this with all of my clients as they near a race, as they're about 1 to 2 weeks out, depending on the race. Volume will gradually drop off in the strength training, so overall reps, sets, time under tension, all of these things lower. And this will improve recoverability and you'll have time to peak properly. Usually, as I decrease the volume, I keep intensity the same, if not a little bit higher. Now, if they're a week out, I usually drop volume and intensity so that they can really fully recover and get all the benefits they want for the race. But about 2 weeks out, start dropping volume. We hit a peak of intensity. And then you see right here, right, training peak. and then they have the taper, and then you have the time for competition. Hopefully, if you have a running coach or if you're your own running coach, you're doing this in your actual runs before race. But I also do this in the strength room with my endurance athletes. Again, the principle: volume increases, intensity must decrease. This should also reflect in your training week to maximize recoverability. So now we're looking not just intensity at an overall training block, overall weeks, a mesocycle, if you will. We're looking at a microcycle, which would be a training week. In our training week, having intense days every single day just doesn't sound smart. Going hard every day does not sound smart. You want to be able to go hard some days and then easy other days so that you can maximize recoverability and improve performance. What does this look like? This looks like keeping the hard days hard and the easy days easy. I say this all the time, so if you've heard this on the podcast before, I apologize, but it's really a principle that I'm going to keep hammering home, and that is basically on your hard quality run days, that is the best day to also lift. Now, you want to separate it with some calories, with some rest, but you want to be able to keep your high stimulus, high intensity days higher, and then on those days that you have your easy runs or you have a rest day, you really just do your easy runs or you just rest, and you're not trying to lift on those days, because what happens is then you've got high intensity, medium to high intensity, medium to high intensity, medium to low intensity, and you're never really getting a low intensity training day, which is part of the training, right? That's going to be a huge part of the adaptation process, is the recovery period. Keep your hard days hard, keep your easy days easy, and that's how you want to fluctuate intensity throughout a microcycle of training. This is a graph of the weekly training intensity. This is, shout out AI, helped create this for me, because honestly, I couldn't find a graph online that really evoked what I wanted to evoke. But this is a good example of actually my training week. So Monday, I have a very low intensity day here. I usually rest. I walk, maybe I sauna. That's kind of what my today is going to look like for me, because today is a Monday that I'm filming this. And then on a Tuesday, my very high intensity days, I'm at the track, I'm running quality, and then I'm going to rest, train some clients, eat some calories, and then I'm going to do a lift. High training day. Wednesday, I usually do easy miles, or I take it as a rest day. It just depends. And so my training stimulus is pretty dang low. Thursday, another quality session, another full body lift, training high. Friday, easy miles or rest, low. Saturday, again, another quality or just a run session and another lift. And then Sunday, I have some form of run, whether it be a long run. In the past, it's been a long run, or it's just a medium intensity, medium duration run. So you see my weekly training fluctuate throughout the week. This is really important, because if I didn't have this, you guys, I would crash and burn. I mean, our training is hard enough as it is. Like you as a runner understand this. Training is hard. Let's not make it harder on ourselves. Definitely structure your lifts around your runs properly. Here's a week broken down for me. This is actually my week, but hopefully it helps you. I've kind of detailed it already before, but I'll go through it really quick. Take a photo of this if you want a little quick look. You can also check out some of the vlog videos on my YouTube channel. I'm starting to post more of them. I'm posting my actual quality training sessions. So if you want to get a little bit of an insider scoop on what my actual training looks like, in terms of what it does a quality day for Abigail look like, what does a lift for Abigail look like, check it out. You can see on my YouTube, on my vlogs, right? Quick flex for me. Monday, rest day. Tuesday, you got the track full body. Wednesday, low intensity day. Thursday, got another track. Previously, this was when I was doing mile training, so I was mile training, full body lift. Friday, another low intensity day. Saturday, high. This was when I was doing a threshold workout quality session, and then a full body lift. Sunday, medium long run. This long run, based on what I was training for, which was the mile at the time, was supposed to be, why I say medium intensity, because anybody who sees 8 to 10 miles is like, girl, what? I was going super slow. Now, I wasn't going super slow every single run. That was part of the problem, which you can look at my mile training series, my video on that, all the things I did right, all the things I did wrong. That was one of the things I did wrong. This long run should have been very, very, very slow, like literally a shuffle. Just move the body, be able to accumulate miles so that I can continue to maintain volume and just chill. And if I needed to take that off, take it off. And this is my overall nutrition tips and information. And why I have the nutrition here, why I find it to be really important, is because even though I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a registered dietitian, so, take this all with a grain of salt. Grain of salt, grain of sand, grain of salt. Yeah. Okay. Even though I'm not a nutritionist, I did take some metabolism courses, some nutrition courses in my exercise physiology degree. And as an athlete myself, I have researched and experimented with various nutrition things. So these are my general guidelines based on the research that's out now. Okay. I think it's crucial. Before a run, at least 30 grams of carbs prior, water approximately 500 to 700 milliliters. So that's 16 to 24 ounces. And then some electrolytes in the floor to heat. Okay. 30 grams of carbs prior. What does that look like? That looks like a banana and a half. That looks like a rice cake with a full banana on it. That looks like 2 tablespoons of honey. That looks like, I'm trying to think of what other people might do, 2 dates. That looks like one, potentially 2 granola bars, depending on how big they are. 30 grams of carbs prior. I say at least because I truly mean at least. This is going to be dependent on what kind of carbohydrates you're consuming and also how your GI handles carbohydrates. And that's why I recommend simple carbs, not a super complex carbohydrate, and doing it an hour and a half to an hour before your training session, something that is going to sit well in your stomach. That's also why I say 30 grams and not the upper limit. If you can train your stomach to take in a little bit more, especially if you're doing a long workout, do it. Water, you want about 16 to 24 ounces. If you're a Florida person, or if you're even not, but especially if you're a Florida person, put some electrolytes in there. I use Element. If you are a salty sweater, Element is a great supplement. If you are not a salty sweater, I've found that some people do not respond to it super well, or they don't need as much. So maybe half of an Element will be just fine for you. After the run, you want to have 1 to 1.5 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. Kilogram. So you're going to have to do the adjustment there. You're going to want to have that within the first 30 minutes post training. And then also have similar feedings for every 2 hours for the next 4 to 6 hours post run. Before you lift, 25 to 50 grams of carbohydrates is great. I found that before a lift, most people's stomachs can tolerate carbohydrates more before a lift than before a run. This is where I would say try and get away with a little bit more carbs and just see. If you're used to being able to handle 30, try 50 and just see how your stomach handles it. And then after the lift, get 30 grams of protein after you're done lifting. Ultimately, if you get about 1 gram, I cannot talk today. Ultimately, if you're getting about 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein in per day, then you're fine. You don't necessarily need to get it in within 30 minutes to an hour of your feeding. I will say if you're a morning worker outer and you're lifting in the morning, which if you're a runner, I don't recommend, because you should be running in the morning and then lifting after your run because you're stacking intensity on your quality days. I digress. If you're lifting in the morning and you're not eating, and you haven't eaten yet, definitely try and get protein right after then. Workout fueling. Oh, yes. Every single person who's training for a marathon is like, oh, God, here we go. Especially someone who's new to the marathon training and they haven't had to intra-workout fuel yet. Here I am, ready to just ruin your day. Intra-workout fueling, they recommend about 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour for endurance activities lasting longer than an hour. This is quite a bit of carbohydrates. And I've seen people go upwards of 100 grams of carbohydrate per hour, which is crazy to train your stomach that way. I believe my client, Katie, she got herself to getting 60 grams of carbs per hour. That's a lot. And it's also helpful. Your body's going to use all of them. So if you can train your stomach to get upwards of 60 grams, awesome. But 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour for any activity lasting longer than an hour. Electrolytes, 300 to 900 milligrams of sodium per hour. And then you can adjust based on your sweat rate, duration, environmental conditions, things like that. Is it super humid? Is it not humid? Is it really hot? Is it not that hot? Do you sweat a lot? Do you not sweat a lot? Obviously, if you're in a lab setting, people will test this and look at this and figure out the exact perfect mix for the athlete. If you're just a runner and like me, where you're like, man, I ain't no pro athlete or nothing, I just like to run and try and do well, then just see how your body feels with electrolytes. It's just going to be one of those things where through trial and error, you just test out what your gut can tolerate and what overall energetically your body needs. On rest days and easy days, you want to be able to still keep very similar caloric needs because your body has to recover and then store energy for the next day's training. So don't change your diet on rest days or easy days or anything like that. The only thing that would change is any intra-workout carbohydrates, any intra-workout electrolytes you can probably cut out in terms of overall calories, but otherwise eat, please, because you have training tomorrow. You need to be ready for it. So eat your food. All right. These are general recommendations, what carbs people should be consuming, right? Moderate exercise, about 1 hour per day. They recommend about 5 to 7 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram body weight per day. Moderate to high intensity. So you got 1 to 3 hours per day. Then you're going to need anywhere from 6 to 10 grams per kilograms per day. This is of carbohydrate. And then marathoners around 7 to 10 grams per kilograms per day. Marathoners, if you're listening to this and you're like, 7 to 10 grams per kilogram. Okay, I weigh how many kilograms? It's 10 grams. Oh my God. Yeah, you might not be eating enough carbohydrates. So seriously, if you're marathon training, it is no joke, y'all. Less than 1% of people even freaking do a marathon, let alone train for one. You need more food than most people. Eat it. Stop acting like you're a normal person. You're crazy. Okay, that is the, oh, I forgot these. This is you after a weekend long run with poor nutrition. And this is you after a weekend long run with great nutrition. I did, in fact, make these via AI. Shout out AI. Shout out. I don't know who this was. I think this was Gemini. Shout out Gemini. But please, seriously, fuel yourself. If you want to run for a long time and you want to run pain free, like strength training is great. Nutrition is so important, though. You've got to be fueling your body before your session, during your session, after your session. All right. All right. These are my sources. That is a slideshow. So I'm gonna stop sharing here. Hey, I don't know if you could see my face the entire time or not, but my face is back if it had disappeared. And that is my overall presentation. It's pretty simple, pretty straight to the point. I didn't want to go too much into the weeds with it because one, if you were at the Gulf Wind seminar, you would know that I have a huge Q&A afterwards that I just answer everybody's question on a Tuesday night. It's like, there's only so much that people are going to be cued in here for. But if you were watching this, obviously you could pause and just shut me up at any time and then go back to whatever you were doing and then return whenever you were ready to tolerate me again. So I suppose 20-ish minutes is not too shabby. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please ask me. Put them in the comments. I love getting questions. I love hearing feedback. If you have any more personal questions, DM me via my Instagram. All of my information is in the description below. If you are interested in a program that will help you reach your goals, then my programs are in the description below. I will be moving all of my programs over to Train Heroic. They should be over there by the time that you guys are listening to this, and it should be in the description below. If you are confused as to what program might be right for you, then on my website, I'm going to have a Strength for Runners quiz that you can take, and my website link will also be below. If you're confused about where do I go, my website has everything. My website will have my social media. My website will have the quiz. My website will have the link to Train Heroic to buy the programs. My website will have any kind of coaching applications. If you want to coach with me, go to my website and just check out everything there. And hopefully you will get all of the products, all of the help, all of the questions answered that you need. That being said, subscribe! Like this. Oh my God, I'm like such a saleswoman right now. Seriously, if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. I love being able to help endurance athletes get faster, stronger, forever. All right. I'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Alchemical Life podcast. Until then, just miss me while I'm gone. Bye, y'all.